We hear about it all the time. What's the deal with self-compassion? Why is it important in your healing and awakening? That's what we're going to talk about with my guest, Anné Klint. Welcome to Divine Feminine Voices, where we define and explore feminine consciousness. My guest today, Anné Klint, works with women all over the globe to heal their painful past in order to create lives they really love. She uses state-of-the-art energy, healing tools, transformational listening, plus great coaching to guide her clients out of confusion, self-doubt, and perfectionism. Oh boy, do I know all of those. And into a life of grace, ease, connection, and purpose. And who doesn't want that? Welcome, Anna. I'm so glad that you're here.
I'm so excited to be here with you, Misa. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Yeah, indeed. Well, hey, I love to bring great women in here, to talk about what's going on for us, what we're seeing in our healing work. What are we seeing in terms of divine feminine consciousness? Because it's moving on the planet right now. So I want to get started by asking you about divine feminine consciousness itself. When I say that, what does it mean to you?
I'll speak for myself. It's this juicy state of owning the aspects of myself that I, for so much of my life, denied, right? I was living and working in a man's field and really lived my life like feeling like I had to prove something in this masculine way. And this divine feminine consciousness is really like this coming back to remembering aspects of myself that culture tried to push away, that I tried to push away, and that these are intrinsic parts of myself that I need to reclaim if I can feel fully whole. And that's kind of I'm talking kind of messy about that, but that's kind of my zhuzh on divine feminine.
Oh, I totally get it. I did the same thing. You go into these masculine work environments that produce really well, but sometimes in the process of all that production, we lose connection with each other.
And yourself, right?
And yourself, absolutely. You can lose touch with your clients because things are too top down. I mean, there are lots of challenges that come with that. And yes, trying to be in a different mode than sometimes is natural for us as women.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you're talking about this, I'm thinking about how perfectionism and like having to prove our worth and our value are antithetical to divine feminine consciousness, right? It's the exact opposite thing because we culturally here, I'll speak for Americans, we're never taught, women were really not taught how to love and accept themselves. And so we are all trying to measure up to something that is completely unrealistic. And that's where we just lose that ability to really come home and come quiet and come within, because we're constantly in this place of needing to measure up to something that just can't ever happen.
Yeah, it's really true, because the feminine consciousness is about the isness of who you are. It's presence to beingness, that you have value because you exist.
Yes.
Masculine consciousness is about that sense of you have meaning because you explore. You express, you create, right? So that we turn that into achievement, which is fun. I mean, most of us love to achieve something in our lives. It's great energy. But if you're not appreciated for who you are, it's going to be really difficult to get to great achievements.
That's right. And if we don't appreciate ourselves for who we are, right? It's like, yes, absolutely. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, exactly. So we have this great opportunity right now to kind of, the way I think of it is bring the best of what we have in feminine consciousness into this environment that has been weighed very heavily in masculine consciousness, and balance out the wings of the bird, so we're flying, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And I love our topic today because self-compassion, I think, is such a big part of true, deep consciousness within the self. But we often have a hard time getting there. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Why is it so difficult for us to embrace and receive the benefits of self-compassion?
Well, it's multifold. One aspect is what we've already touched on, which is that our culture has been really propelled on masculine energy for a really long time, and women are swept up into this. This whole idea of, well, I don't want to get into all of the things about, like how do you work your way up the corporate ladder? You do so by, embracing masculine energy, for instance. But, to get back to this very, very, very simple thing, which is that nobody taught us how to practice self-compassion for most of us. And there are rare exceptions, but for most of us, loving yourself was never modeled for us. We were raised by people who didn't have the skills to practice radical self-acceptance, which is like when you look in the mirror or when you review who you have been, things you have said, things you have done, and you come to a place of total acceptance. This is not typically modeled in our culture. So there's this aspect of self-acceptance, which relies heavily on self-awareness, which relies heavily on making space and time to be with and reflect upon your experience, how you show up, your wounding, all of this stuff. So we have the self-awareness piece, which leads to self-acceptance as a potential practice. And from that place of acceptance, then we can move into the space of self-compassion. But none of this was really modeled for us. We live in a culture that is go, go, go. Busyness is a badge of honor. And thankfully, I see this is starting to change. And I think 2020 really helped, kind of needle us in the direction of being somewhat less busy and spending a little bit more time in reflection. But all of these pieces, it's hard because it's not modeled and nobody taught us how to do it because they didn't know how to do it.
Yeah. It's so true. If you don't know how to bring that balance into your own life, you don't know how to teach someone else how to be in that compassion. And I find when I'm working with the women that I'm privileged to work with, the deeper we can go into self-compassion, the more healing we're doing. But
yes.
You can't really push through it and over the top of it. That's a bit of a myth, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. And self-compassion is such a foundational aspect of spiritual awakening. It's like you can only get so far. You can do all the stuff that's on the surface. You can play with stones and cards and readings and this and that, but you will never get deeper until you can learn to truly love and accept yourself. Warts and all, cellulite and all, forgiving yourself or accepting, whatever it is that you've said or done that is so terrible. It's like all of that stuff has to happen if you're going to really actually deepen your spiritual practice. And what I found in working with people that it's been so thrilling. When I first started this work, I thought, I'm going to help women heal their painful past so they can have real emotional freedom. And then self-compassion is just like a natural part of this. But what I found was that when women really did this work and they started to really get it, they became incredible manifestors. And everything that they wanted in their lives, whether it was material things, whether it was a state of feeling, whether it was a relationship or a quality of life, it was like, boom, you get this right and you can have whatever you want.
I'm so glad you brought this up because there is a direct connection.
Yes,
absolutely.
There is a direct
connection. And that ability to really have love for yourself, as you say, warts and all, that's the key. You're not, I'm not going to make my wrinkles go away. I can reduce it, but they're not going to go away. And it's the willingness to say, oh, yes, 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 to hold yourself as that precious one that starts to change. That's what I say. You can't roll over it. You can't go past it. But when you accept it, as you've so perfectly said, when you're in that state of compassion with who you are, as you are, what you've been, where you're going. You're in isness.
Yes.
You're
absolutely.
in that moment, right? And that's what we create from the now. That actually so you pointed out to us so beautifully. Now you're in the now. Yeah. And life starts rocking and rolling, doesn't it?
Oh, totally. It's a complete paradigm shift, a complete 180. I mean, it's phenomenal to watch people's lives change when they really when they get this. It's so simple. It's not easy, but it's very simple. It's very, very simple. Love yourself. You can have whatever you want.
That's it. Thank you.
That's it.
Well said. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that is receivership, isn't it? I know that's a topic for you.
Absolutely.
All right. So tell us more about your view about self-compassion and receivership.
Yeah. So self-compassion and self-love are the linchpin of receivership, right? It's like in the spiritual woo-woo world, we all are talking about manifesting this, and we want abundance, and we want all of these things. We want the relationships. We want the job. We want the whatever it is that we want. These are things that we want. And in order to have these things, we have to receive them, right? It's like we have to let them in. We have to allow. We have to be worthy of receiving them. But the best and fastest way that I have found by observing my own life and my clients' lives is that, again, it's this linchpin when we can be on the receiving end of our own acceptance. When we can be on the receiving end of a quieting of judgment, right? We judge. This is what we do. But we can turn the volume down on judging. And when we can receive our own love, care, compassion, all of this, we open the floodgates. And all of that other stuff can just come rushing in. And all of that other stuff can still come when you are not in a place of self-love and self-compassion, but you have to work really, really, really hard for it. And chances are when it comes, you're not really going to be able to fully enjoy it and accept it as your birthright, your divine right, because you don't already love and accept yourself. So it's like, it's just this fundamental thing, like the receivership opens and stays open when you practice all the time sending love and care and compassion to yourself.
And that receivership is the receptive energy is sacred feminine consciousness, right? That is what it is. Totally. And if we think about mothers, we receive that little one into our wombs. You hold and carry it. And if you don't receive it, nothing's going to manifest. There's no baby that is going to be born. You have to receive that baby. So
that's right.
You're really speaking to the fundamentals of that feminine principle that we often overwork it. I think we over-masculinize it. We overachieve manifestation. So talk about this in your own life. What have you observed, from one of your clients, an example of that receptivity and how that flourishes in some way in life, and in a way we can see it and feel it. Do you have an example of that?
Well, I can give you some client examples, like things that just kind of popped out of the blue, right? Out of the blue. It's like, I was working with someone early on who was an artist and an incredible artist. And she was really, this was intrinsically tied with some mother wounding and some mother issues. And her mother had recently died. And so there was grief, there was sadness, there was sorrow, there was loss for, aspects of the relationship. And she's this incredible artist who is showing in exhibitions, but they're, in galleries, which is not bad at all. But she had never had a museum exhibition. And I said, let's do this work together. Let's come and let's really, work on healing some of these things with your mom. And what really came up was that her mom had so few opportunities to really fully express herself as an individual. And so this woman was also in this place of feeling like she couldn't, there's a lineage you have to break when you want to do something that your lineage has never allowed for before. And so we worked on some of these things, and we worked on just the grief and the loss. And of course, we worked on practicing caring and loving for yourself. And it is a practice. This is not a one and done. This is like, you got to get up and do this every single day. And the universe gives us opportunities all the time to practice self-acceptance and self-compassion. But when she did this work, like we were working together, I'd never even heard of this. It wasn't something she had told me that she was applying for or anything like that. Out of the blue, the art museum in her city, which was a big, giant art museum, came and offered her an exhibition. And she had never had one before. And it was like, holy cow. Okay. All right. This is cool. I worked with another client who was leaving work where she was. She was working in the military, and so had really in her adult life only worked in the military. And she wanted to set up private practice outside. She wanted to, she loved animals, riding horses. She had it in her head. She wanted to have a farm with a barn that she could have a wedding venue on. And she wanted to keep her horses there, and she wanted to get alpaca and all of this stuff. And she thought it was just going to be so exorbitantly expensive and way out of her reach and totally impossible. And I'm sitting here going, I don't know, it seems kind of possible to me. And we do the work, and she shows up, and she kind of masculinized it, but she was very diligent and just moving through the processes and really like examining and owning and being with. And like 2 months into our container, she was like, guess what? Someone called and said there's this farm for sale and it's totally in my budget. And I was like, uh-huh. And before we even finished working together, she had purchased this property. It was hers. And it was like, wow. That's when I started realizing that this work allows you to manifest what you want. It's like when they say, get out of your own way, Misa. Well, what do you mean get out of my own way? Well, I've been in my own way like my whole life. And it was that striving, the driving, the grasping, the efforting. And I have gotten a lot of stuff done in my life. I have accomplished a lot of stuff. But it was not until I went, whoosh, I give up. The striving is literally killing me. It is literally killing my body. And I can't do it anymore. And the emotional pain that I'm in, I cannot bear anymore. And when I got to that point, it was arduous and difficult for me. And I still wanted to do it all by myself and, all of that stuff. But my life is so unrecognizable. Like the level of peace and ease and joy. Do I get impatient? Of course. Do things not work out my way sometimes? Of course. And that's another opportunity for self-compassion. Do I revert to the old ways sometimes? Of course. But it's just like life on the other side of this practice is unrecognizable, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, it is indeed. And I'm so glad you spoke to that. It's like when we let go of the driving, and I can only speak to that for me and the clients I work with, right? Because we come from these places where we think we have to push, and we're deeply empathic people.
Yeah.
And there may be individuals that works for. You just push on ahead, full steam ahead, and it may work. But when you've spent some period of your life doing that, and as you've described, your body's taking the toll, or your emotional body is taking the toll, it means it's not working for you.
Right.
It's
not sustainable.
No. And that is where the miracles open up, when you finally say, I can relax and receive. And this is what it looks like, feels like. This is loving me. I'm so glad you shared those examples, because they really are evidence of that. What happens when we open up to feminine energy? Voila.
Out of the blue.
Out of the blue. When I got that for myself, that's when within a month or two, my income doubled. because I was always driving and pushing, right? That masculine
Right.
energy was always going. And I finally said, what have you got to lose, girl? Because it's not,
Totally.
you're not accelerating the way you thought you were going to. And I went, it's already
Right.
here. It's already in the field. Relax, breathe, enjoy.
That's right.
Boom.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Totally. Yeah, like I said, it's simple. It's not always easy, but it's very simple.
And that is true with the great truths, right? They are simple and they're profound. And then it's a matter of seeing how it applies.
Yeah.
So share with us, leave us with a hot tip. If you were going to, here's the one thing, darling, to really focus on in your self-compassion, in your journey of manifestation. What would you leave with us today?
I have two things. One real quick, to just in response to what you just brought up, was about, relaxing into it and your income doubling is to ask these questions like, I wonder what would happen if I tried it this other way, and just to allow this like a space of curiosity. Like, okay, this has been my MO for so long and this is where it's gotten me. And okay, I can celebrate that, but I wonder what could happen if. So to do that, but the mantra that I use with my clients and I use with myself endlessly is to ask this one very, very simple question. Is this loving to me? Is this relationship loving to me? Is this food loving to me? Is going to bed at this time loving to me? Is this thought that I'm having about my blah, 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 whatever it is that loving to me? And to start to really interrogate everything at this baseline. And if something is not loving to you, find a way to change it, leave it, change your mindset, change your thought processes, come at it from a different angle, change your perception, whatever you need to do to bring equanimity to this and to come to this place of, okay, yes, this is loving to me. And to be just always thinking like, really, it has to become a mantra that you are constantly interrogating your life with. And when you really get honest with yourself, you'll start to realize like, I really wanted to do this project, but it's actually not loving to me. So there was some part of me that was striving. Or I really wanted this relationship with this person, be it intimate, friendship, family, whatever, to be fruitful and to work. But you know what? I find it's just really not loving to me. I either need to change something about this relationship or I need to get out of it. Something like that. And to just use it with everything. You can use it with literally everything. Is watching this show on Netflix loving to me? So that is my one tip. It's just a place to start.
I love it. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. It's perfect. And what a powerful way to stay tuned in all day long. And that's where it happens. So thank you.
Yes.
Very hot. Very hot tip.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And
My
you
pleasure.
have a gift for our viewers. Would you share that, please? Tell them about it, and we'll make sure the link's down below.
Yes. Oh, awesome. I had already forgotten. Yeah. So I have a 10-day, it's a Flourish Self-Compassion Challenge. And it is 10 days of a little bit of teaching and different types of practices that you can practice with. Because here's the thing, like what works for me for my self-compassion practice might not work for you. So I have 10 days of different resources and tools and practices, meditations, all sorts of ways of addressing and coming at self-compassion from different angles. And at the end of 10 days, everybody says, wow, I didn't realize like my self-talk was that bad. And now it's so much better. I feel so much better about myself. So it's easy and it's actually interactive to a degree. So if you, it's not just out there in the ether and you go through it on your own, but if you join my online group, which is totally free, you can ask questions and I answer. I'm there. And other people in the group have been through the challenge, are loving and kind and gracious. So you can actually do this challenge and reach out for support or guidance or to share your wins along the way. And it's just a really beautiful, it's like the gateway drug into self-compassion. And then you'll come away with practices that you can use over and over again.
I love it, the gateway drug, because it really is once you get going on it, isn't it? Oh,
yes.
Awesome. Beautiful,
Yes.
Beautiful gift. Thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you for sharing your wisdom and insights with us today. Just awesome. And you're awesome.
It's been so fun. I love you, Misa. It's been so fun. It's such a pleasure to spend any time with you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And thanks for everyone for tuning in.
Indeed. And everyone, you can get Anna's free gift, sorry about that, at at the link down below. So go get it, check out the group, check out her work. And love you so much, dear. Love you all for being here and being part of this grand journey together. As always, subscribe to my channel and join us in this community. And to receive my free meditation gift, The Holding, check out the link below. All right. Love you all and all that you're doing for feminine consciousness on the planet. And I'll see you at my next interview.